You can put a rental property inside of a trust, and in fact, you probably should. This is estate planning lawyer Michael Pevney, and I create estate plans for families in California. You can go ahead and follow this channel and like this video if this is giving you some information, and you can set up a time to meet with me for free by going to my website at ocestateplanlawyer.com. So, rental properties. A good amount of my clients have rental properties, and I usually encourage them to put it into the trust that we're creating for them. I usually set up a trust, a revocable living trust, for most of my clients. Most of them own some sort of real estate, and we want to put that real estate inside of a trust. We're always going to put the primary residence inside the trust, and we're usually going to put any rental properties also inside of that trust, because the main reason is that it avoids probate. Where I practice in California, probate is very expensive. Now, when you get up to a real estate value of about $1 million, it can cost close to $50,000 just to get it through probate. Probate, remember, is that court-supervised and government-controlled asset distribution program that any property that you own would have to go through if that property is not in a trust, and a couple of other exceptions to that. So we're always going to want to put rental properties, because a rental property, just like your personal residence, is property, and that would have to go through probate as well. I have clients that have multiple homes, duplexes, triplexes, apartment buildings that we want to put into their trust, because that's going to avoid probate. So avoiding probate is a huge and excellent reason to put a rental property inside of a home. Now, one thing that putting a rental property inside of a living trust does not do, though, is give you some sort of asset protection, meaning that if you get sued, if the tenants of one of your homes sues you for something, you weren't maintaining the property correctly and they injured themselves, or whatever reason that renters sue landlords for whatever it is that they do, you, if your name is on the deed to that home, are personally liable. Now, putting that home into a trust, into a revocable living trust, does not protect those assets from you being sued personally. So it's always essential. We always want to have good insurance on that property. That's always step one. We always want to have good homeowners, good business insurance in that property. We want to make sure that all the accounting is done correctly. Then we also want to make sure we have good umbrella insurance, meaning it's an umbrella that sort of covers us and our whole family from any personal liability that might come from lawsuits like this from a tenant maybe. And usually you have to already have certain limits, a certain level of car insurance, a certain level of homeowners insurance, and you can get an umbrella, or not life insurance, but an umbrella policy up to about $5 million or so. And it's relatively cost effective. The first $1 million or so might only cost about $250 or something like that. I don't sell insurance. Check with your insurance provider about that. The next step to protect yourself against liability would be to put that rental property inside of some sort of corporate entity, maybe like an LLC. And if the accounting is done properly, that can provide you with some level of asset protection, making sure you don't commingle funds. You're running that rental property like it's just a business, because it is a business. Putting that home into an LLC can provide you with some of that asset protection. Now, you can then put the LLC, you can put the business inside of the trust. So then it's protected both from probate and from asset protection from lawsuits. Now, you still want to maintain good insurance as well, even if that home is in an LLC. So that's something that some of my clients do. Some of their rental properties are already in LLCs. So the LLC already owns the home, and then we put the LLC inside of that trust. Now, there are a couple of issues that you can run across when you're trying to put a rental property inside of a trust, inside of a revocable living trust. And sometimes, although not that often in my experience, you can run into some trouble with the bank. So if that rental property has a mortgage on it, and that mortgage is in your name, you are personally liable, and they can also foreclose on the house if you don't pay the mortgage. sometimes these mortgages have due on sale clauses, so that hypothetically, if they do have one of those due on sale clauses, if you transfer that to a trust, they might have the right to demand the balance in full of that loan if you transfer that home into a trust. Now, I've actually never personally seen that happen, and from my understanding is that it is very, very rare, but to be safe, you're going to want to check with that mortgage company, with your bank, before putting that property into a trust. Say, hey, I'm setting up a revocable living trust. It's a trust. It's a pretty standard trust that I'm going to have complete control over everything. I'm using this as a rental property. Just want to make sure that I can keep paying the mortgage as I'm normally paying it, as long as that once I put that into a trust. So, yes, we can put rental properties inside of a revocable living trust, and because it helps us avoid probate, although it's not going to help us prevent liability, personal liability. And for that reason, we always want to have good insurance, and then think about putting that in some sort of corporate entity like an LLC, that kind of thing. And then we also might want to check with the bank before putting it into a trust. So bottom line, I typically recommend that my clients put their rental properties that they own inside of their revocable living trust, because it avoids probate, the time, the cost, the hassle, all of the control you get out of that. If you've gotten some value from this recording and you are a California resident and you want to set up a time to meet with me for free, you can set up a time to do that by going to my website. You can link in the show description here and go to ocestateplanlawyer.com. Thanks for your time, and thanks for your attention.